18, we got Paul Ragsdale, Chuck Davidson. Lyle Stokes seems to be missing in action, but he might pop in here shortly. Myself, Chris Fudd Wallace. And tonight for our special guest, we have Ryan Casey of Show Me Guide Service. So first off, before we get started a little bit, I'm going to touch base with everybody on here. Last week we did a character, Runny Doo Doo. I did the character. There were some people who thought Runny Doo Doo might have been being portrayed to mock a certain individual, be it Bink or be it somebody else or whatnot. And really, Runny the character really was just he's a character actually that I made up way over a year ago. Someone we'll have on the show again. It's really just we're going to have different characters on the show. We're going to do things that are going to be to just be enjoyable and be different, and you know, we're not trying to offend anybody. So Bink wasn't offended. It wasn't aimed at him, which some people thought it might have been. We are going to have Bink and possibly Janet both together on again on a different show. So we look forward to that, and we're not, you know, we're also going to try to stay away from having characters like Runny and things like that when we have special guests, so that way we can focus on them a little bit more. But beyond that, I mean, we're all good. We're gonna keep doing our show the way we do it. We're gonna have fun doing it. We're gonna try to make it good for everybody else. So we're gonna get right into the meat with Ryan Casey here. I'm gonna go ahead and let Chuck start us off, if you'd like.
How you doing today, Ryan? You been getting on them lately?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me, guys. Now it's been a little tough out here on the river lately.
When you bring your clients out on these guide trips, what do you focus on the most that they're going to take home with them when you drop them off at the boat ramp that day? What do you want them to remember about it, and what do you really try to focus on while you have them in the boat?
Safety number one, because it is a pretty dangerous river. But I just want them to take away having fun, and you know, everybody's different. Some people want to show up and they want to learn a certain technique, or they want to learn to go out and do it themselves. Some people just want to go out and spend the day on the Mississippi River. Other people want to catch fish. You know, everybody wants to catch fish, but you know, some people are just there for the fishing. Some people are there to learn something. So I mean, you know, you just kind of feel everybody out and try to come through for everybody on what they're wanting.
Well, that's great. What's been your most memorable guide trip that you've had clients in the boat that you know, something may have happened where you've really got a good limit of fish, or you know, something else that may have happened that just stands out in your mind that you will never forget?
There's lots of those, but there's good, there's bad, and ugly. But I'd say, you know, probably the one that stands out the most for me is today we had some clients out, and my dad was first mating for me, and we caught 348 pounds of fish in our best five, and that was a really good day. And our next best five that day was like 154 pounds, so we had 10 fish that averaged a little better than 50 pounds a piece.
That was a good day.
Yeah, that was a real good day.
So you in your tournament fishing, are you gonna, you know, try to get back into it a little bit more than you have been, or you just gonna focus on some big tournaments and, you know, not try to make you know, every tournament on certain trails and stuff like that? What's your focus on the tournaments coming up?
Really, tournament fishing's kind of over for me. Dad moved back to Cleveland. I had fun fishing it with him and fishing the tournaments, but anymore, you know, being out there as much as I am, and you know, the pressure of putting people on fish. You know, same thing with tournaments. You know, it's work. You got to get your bait. You got to, you know, find your fish. You don't really get to fish for them pre-fishing. And anymore, I don't really get to fish much myself. So if I do get some time off, I usually go out there just to catch them myself instead of worrying about, you know, finding them for a tournament, and you know, bring myself into that pressure again. So I don't really fish many tournaments anymore. but I do, the one thing I miss about it is going and seeing everybody and the BS and that goes along with it. That's one thing I do miss. So I try to, if there's a big local tournament, I try to, show up to talk to everybody. But other than that, I kind of got away from the tournament fishing.
So you're not going to try to hit like the big monsters on the Ohio or something like that, next couple
Man,
of years?
that's a great tournament. Aaron Wheatley has done a fantastic job, and we've had a real good time every time we fished it. It's just, yeah, I really don't see myself fishing any tournaments. I might fish one a year, and if I was going to fish one, that's always one that you want to go fish. But I don't know if I'll get to make that one this year. But it's always a great time, and if I don't make it this year, I'm gonna miss it.
Speaking of pressure, tell us what it's like when you're taking your clients out and you have all this pressure on you where, they're expecting fish, maybe not big fish, but, they're expecting to get fish in the boat. What's that like, and what kind of pressure do you have on you knowing you got to go out and, and do that kind of work every day?
Well, I mean, that's just it. You've got to produce, every day. You're taking people's money and they're paying you to put them on fish and have a good time and keep them safe. And there's pressure involved. I mean, it's just like fishing a tournament or anything else. The fish sometimes they don't want to cooperate, and you got maybe 3 to 5 people sitting in the boat looking at you, going, what's going on? And you got to come up with an answer. So it's it's tough sometimes, but it's being out on the water is there's no substitute for it. Time on the water, you can generally figure out where to go to put some fish in the boat, and it's not always easy. It's not, everybody says it's the best job in the world, and I'm definitely not complaining, but it's got its days just like anything else.
How do you feel on those days when you take some clients out and it's one of those bad cold front days and and you just can't seem to get the skunk out of the boat, or you find a banana in your boat at the end of the day? You think that makes you a better fisherman by having days like that where you've got to try to get out and learn even more so you won't have days like that?
Well, I mean, as far as skunkings go, they don't happen very often, but they've happened. I think it's happened to me 5 times in this is my 5th year, and it's happened twice this year already. I don't know what's going on in the river right now. It's really tough out there, but those days are going to happen. It's fishing. The one thing I got to ask myself is, did I try as hard as I could today for these people, and did I do anything for them, to teach them about what we're doing? What did I do for them today? Did I work, my hardest? Did I make sure they had a good time? It's still fishing. It's gonna happen. It might not happen, as much for some as others, but it's fishing. I mean, you can't always make them bite, and most of the time, people are relatively new or new to fishing or catfishing, and they have a pretty big obstacle to get over with just the equipment itself. So getting the fish to the boat is an issue sometimes. A lot of people, have a tough time. They've never used circle hooks, or the way the fish bite, they want to jerk the hook, and we lose a lot of fish like that. But it's challenging every day out there, but it is a lot of fun.
I bet. I've seen your new boat and the new setup you've got in it, and you've invested a lot of money on the equipment in your boat and your company. When you was focusing and deciding on what electronics to get, and you was doing this to make yourself a better fisherman for your clients, so you'd have the right stuff and you had every advantage to do a good job every time you took them out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, safety is priority. I mean, this is a dangerous river. People die out here every year, and that's the priority number one. And the ProCat is a really stable boat. It's wide. It's 24 foot long. It's got plenty of room for people to move around, and that was one of the biggest things for me is, if I'm going to be charging something, I want them to be comfortable, and I want them to be safe. So the equipment you use reflects on your work. You don't want people paying you a bunch of money to go out there and use equipment that's going to cost them fish. I understand if a fish pulls the hook or gets you down in structure or something like that, but if I've got fish breaking my line or my reels locking up or rods breaking for no reason, that you can't have that stuff. That's something you can control. And so you spend the extra money and you get a good equipment, and people, I get a lot of compliments on the equipment I use and the boat I use, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Let me jump in here real quick, Chuck, and get one of the. We've got about 5 questions lined up on chat, so I'm going to get one of them shot out to you real quick. Ryan, do you prefer night fishing or day fishing? And what are your personal best fish that you got?
I prefer daytime fishing. I do some night fishing trips in the summertime, but we usually have no problem catching them in the daytime. As far as personal best, the biggest fish I've ever put a client on was just a little over 90 pounds. My biggest fish is 95 pounds. And then Jason Jackson and myself put a 105-pounder boat in a tournament in 2010.
And one more question: what's your favorite body of water to guide on, or do you only guide on one body of water?
Man, I've gotten to see some really good ones, and the Mississippi River is awesome. The Missouri River is one of my favorites during certain times of the year. They don't allow commercial fishing on the Missouri River. It's got some really large fish in it, and there's certain times of the year I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than on the Missouri River. But for most of the year, I'd have to say the Mississippi River.
All right, I'll let you go back at it, Chuck. I got a couple more, but I'll get to them a little later.
Okay, well, that's about it for me, Ryan. It's been great talking to you. I'm going to pass you back on to Chris, and he's got some stuff for you.
All right, yeah, I'll go ahead and get you the couple other questions we got from the Catfish Weekly chat. We got another question from Heath Malone that asks, do you give a discounted rate for the people when they skunk, or how do you handle that when that happens?
When that happens, I usually tell them next time they come back it's half off.
Half off, okay. All right, and then Adam Winder asks, what's your favorite cut on skipjack? Do you like the head, gut, chunk, fillet, or what's your favorite way to do the bait?
I don't have a favorite necessarily. It seems like any given day they'll want a different cut, and I'll throw them all on there and see what they want. But if I had to, I'd say what I've caught my biggest fish on would probably be 3/4 cutting them and slicing the gut pocket open, letting it kind of hang, and double hooking it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I believe that's all the questions we have for right now on the Catfish Weekly chat. So, Paul, if you want to go ahead and shoot at him a little bit there. Okay. Oh, it looks like we got Lyle.
Yeah, it looks like Lyle made it. Of course, I don't see him yet, but Ryan, just out of curiosity, what made you decide to get into guiding?
Well, we just finished up Monster Cat, and I'd been off for almost a year making that video, and I had a buddy of mine named Rick Bracken, and he called me and kind of approached me about starting a guide service. And, at the time it seemed like a good idea because I didn't really want to go back to the real world. And I'd won some tournaments here locally, and things were going good, and it was the time to do it. And it worked out. For the first 2 years of the guide service is the toughest years you're going to have. And I had 2 TV shows kind of fall into my lap, and it was just kind of meant to be.
What how long have you been doing it?
This is my 5th year, I believe.
Now, getting into guiding, and what do you do when you first before you get to the boat ramp with your client? What's the things that you normally do to get that ready for the trip?
You've got to deal with your boat and your tackle as soon as you get when you get done from that trip, you're taking care of stuff for the next day, and then I get up early. I usually have my bait taken care of the night before, squared away. I get everything hooked up and ready to go, kind of a systems check, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be, and then show up at the boat ramp, make sure you got your fish finder and all that good stuff that we've all forgotten from time to time. But just being prepared. Like you're fishing a tournament or something. You got a lot of prep work to do before the clients even show up that day.
And you usually try to make sure the client gets a learning experience as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I like to teach, but at the same time, I'm also, everybody's different. Some people are really engaging and they want to ask a lot of questions and they want you to teach them. And some people just want to sit back and relax and enjoy the peace and quiet of the river and just kind of sit there and fish. So it just depends on what type of person it is. If it's somebody who has a lot of questions, I mean, I'll answer anything anybody asks me and teach them whatever they want to know as far as fish finder, where to look for fish. I've had people that just want to do an educational trip and they want to get their season started, so they'll come to me in March or February and they want to learn how to drift for later on that year, and we'll go out there and I'll show them the ins and outs of it, and go through all of that, and then and then we'll go anchor fishing to catch fish.
Well, I want to go out on the river and I want to catch a big fish. Now, the biggest on Mississippi is a 16-pound blue, but I get a hold of you. I want to spend my money. What is the best time to take people out? Is it winter, spring, fall?
I get that question probably more than anything. What's the best time? And really, besides the month of June, any of them are good. I mean, you can catch them, big fish in the winter. I'm not a big fan of winter fishing. I mean, you can catch some of the biggest fish in the winter, and they're schooled up, and you can have some phenomenal days. But for me, they just don't fight that hard. It's cold, and it's not my favorite time of year. But if you like catching, just putting big fish in the boat, it's a great time of year to do that. And you can have some phenomenal days. They just don't fight that hard. And you're anchor fishing. I like to get out and drift. I do like anchor fishing from time to time, especially when they're hitting really hard. But as far as the best time of the year, I mean, every year is different. If you look at the last 2 years, we've had really mild winters, and March and April we were already drifting, and the fishing was just on fire. This year, it was on fire February, March for a little while, and then it kind of shut down. And April had some really good days, but then the end of April and May has just been, I've never seen anything like it. It's really tough, and this is usually some of our best time for big fishes right now. And then you go into July and August, it's a lot of fish usually with some big ones thrown in, and then September, October, we move around a little bit to some different areas, but can get on some phenomenal fishing then too, and we've caught some of our biggest fish in October and November. So anytime you're on the Mississippi River, you've got a chance to catch a 100-pound fish. And then there's big fish out here to be caught any time of the year.
That's what I want.
Usually the second week of June, on a normal year, second week of June is when they typically go to spawn here, and you'll be catching beat up males all the way into early August, and but usually about the first or second week of July typically is when they start really feeding up after the spawn.
Right. Well, that's about all I have for you. Appreciate you coming on, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Chris. I know we got a contest and some other stuff, and Lyle just popped in here a little bit ago, so appreciate you showing up today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey, Ryan, we got one more question for you from the Catfish Weekly chat, and we got Major Brown asking, what type of rigging and techniques do you like to use?
As far as the rigging goes, I mean, I've got some basic ones that I'll typically use. A three-way sliding rig. I like to use them a lot on my bumping rods. Some people like to use a three-way with a Luxon chain, and I like that rig as well. But mostly I use a three-way with a sliding sinker line. A sliding swivel. It goes up and down your main line with about anywhere from a 10 to 18 inch line to your weight, and I use 40 pound for that. And then I'll have about a 2-foot leader of 80 pound mono to my double hook rigs, and I'll use that on anchor a lot. And then I'll also use the stacker rig. That's the weight on the bottom, come up, and I vary how far I come up to the first hook. It might be 10 inches or it might be 18 inches, and then another hook above that, usually about 2 foot higher. And that's just kind of just an overhand knot, a granny knot with a twist in it that seems to hold pretty good. Russ, DeVore has one that he uses that's hangs a little straighter, a little tougher to tie, but that knot is. I just like the fast overhand with the twist, and it seems to hold just fine.
And as far as technique goes, like, I don't know if he means by if drifting or anchored, or I'm not sure exactly what he means.
I drift and anchor. It just depends on the water temperature, time of the year. I really like, with clients, you're typically doing just the drifting, and not as much walking baits unless they want to do that. And it's not something that most people can just pick up and take off with in a short amount of time. It takes a feel, and it takes some practice. And anytime anybody wants to do that, I'll put it around their hand and we'll go. But we usually catch most of our fish by drifting, and then of course anchor fishing. That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. We got one more question that came in. What hook do you use, and do you bend them out any?
I use the double action Team Catfish 8/0, and I don't have to bend those out at all. They've got the offset. They seem to work really well. I've been hooked by them a couple times. They're really sharp. And I'll also use the Super J's in the 10s, and that's just a dynamite hook. I mean, those things that go through the roof, the head, they're pretty wicked. And I'll use those for walking baits.
Do you use the double actions because a lot of clients probably like to set that hook, and that's more of a hook that you could maybe get away with that, or?
You've got a lot more leniency with that hook if they did happen to set the hook, or if they didn't reel quite as much, they're sharp enough, and usually it's got enough give that you can get the hook to somewhat set, and then when they finally their hand will slip off the reel or something, or they'll goof it up, usually you'll still catch a few of those fish because that hook is so sharp and it is a little more forgiving. It's a great hook. They're tough to get back out. I've been using them for I think 3 years, and when I started using them, hook ratio went up tremendously.
Do you always use a double hook rig, or do you sometimes just use a single hook?
No, I use a lot of single hooks, but if the fish are wanting bigger baits and I can get away with throwing bigger baits, I'll use double hook rigs. I always, a lot of the guys that fish the tournaments and stuff, and they use a big bait with just a single hook, and I give them a lot of credit. They must have a lot of patience and a lot more luck than I have, because I almost every time we'll have a big fish just load the rod down, and then all of a sudden it'll just fly up. And, they don't have that hook. I just found with that double hook rig, I catch a lot more of the fish. But a lot of people tell you it'll take away the action of the bait. It won't have as much action, and I think there's probably some truth to that. But I have more luck with the double hook rig.
Okay. Well, we got Lyle here, and he showed up a little bit late, but we're going to go ahead and pass it over to him, let him bend your ear a little bit, see what he's got for you.
Yeah, Lyle.
Hey, Lyle.
Hey, Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. A little tired. I was out turkey hunting all day chasing turkeys, and they got the best of me. I think I walked about 20 miles today, it seemed like.
Cool.
I feel like, anyway.
I got tied up this afternoon with an old friend of yours, and he just, I couldn't get, broke loose to get going. Jason and Vicky come up today.
All right, on. Those are some good people right there.
If it was any better, nobody in the world couldn't stand it. It's good people. I've been on the boat with you, and John Nordyke and I had a trip with you a few years ago, and a lot of guys don't understand, especially guys that fish all the time, understand what you go through doing a guide trip or any guide as far as that goes. But I know that that you go out of your way to make sure everything is done, and I'm not sure what all topics that you went in, but I was firsthand got to see John wanted to learn drifting, and when him and I took that trip, we was March or something, real cold weather, and you took the time to explain everything to him that he wanted to know, and still took us and put us on fish. And a lot of these guys are people that are watching the show need to understand that you do this all the time for anyone. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I mean, anybody, that they asked some of those questions earlier, and anybody who wants to learn and ask the questions, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know, what they're wanting to learn unless they tell me, and I have a lot of guys, just feel free to ask any question you want to know, and I'm always happy to answer it. A lot of times I'm not going to just say, well, this is where we drift at, or this is why we, I don't know that you want to know that, so ask me that. And the guys who, ask the most questions, I feel like they get, the most out of the trip, because I have, I will tell anybody anything, just ask the question. I mean, that's why I'm there. I'm not a tournament fisher anymore. I'm not here to, hide things from people. I want everybody to learn how to catch these things. And if you do come on my boat, I'm also going to tell you about CPR and selective harvest. In my boat, we release anything 10 pounds and up. So if it's 10 pounds, it goes back in the water. And I let everybody know it comes in the boat why we do that. And now the last thing I want to do is take out some, and if you catch a fish legally, that's your fish. But it takes a long time for those fish to get that big. You guys all know that. And the last thing I want to do is take somebody out there, show them how to catch a bunch of big fish, and have to keep every single one of them. Anymore, I stay busy enough that if guys are meat hunters, most of the time, I don't take them. And I know that's crazy for a guy to say, but it's the way I run my business. Those fish there's not an unlimited quantity of them out there. So I'm not saying that if somebody, little kid caught a 30-pounder or something like that, or a 40 or a 50, and that was just one fish, and he wanted to keep it or whatever and take it home and show. I mean, that's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'd prefer that they let them go, but I'm not a CPR Nazi either. I'm not, I'm not, gonna badmouth someone for keeping their biggest fish or something. I mean, that's gonna happen. But there's guys that know how to catch them. They go out there, they keep, it's ridiculous how many fish you get in Mississippi right now. 20 fish per person in any size. That's ludicrous. I mean,
it's crazy.
I kept 20 fish over 20 pounds, and we've had those days many times out there. That's a lot of fish. I don't think my freezer would handle that many fish.
Well, and you was involved with the conservation movement that we was working on here with Rick a couple years ago, and I know that it's something that's near and dear to you as it is myself, and if we don't get something done or keep staying after it, and then all those fish will be gone someday, and the kids won't ever know what a 30, 40, 50, 60-pound fish is. Are you fishing any tournaments this year?
I don't think I'm going to. If I do, I might fish one at the end of the year in Arkansas. I might go down there, and I heard them old Massengills have won it the last 2 years in a row, and I always like fishing against those guys. They're about as good as they come. I mean, just great competitors, and I always like to fish against them and all those guys down there, and I might go fish that one.
Well, that'd be
I haven't decided. I really just kind of gotten away from the tournaments.
Now, I knew that you had. I didn't see you much anymore, and that's a shame, as you're a great competitor to the sport. Are you and Rick still involved in the guide service together?
Rick's got an open invitation anytime he wants to come back to guide. I know he sold his boat, and he's really been, hammered down with running the tow service and everything. He kind of signed it all over to me, but I just kind of left it if you ever wanted to come back and do any guiding, it's there for him. So he's a real good guy and real good, business partner. He's about as good as they come. I hope he does someday, but if he doesn't, I understand. He makes a lot, he makes pretty honest and good living, driving those towboats. So.
Right. And I've known Rick a long time, and I knew when you guys got started, and I didn't know if he was going to do a lot of guiding or whatever because he's gone so much. But it's been a very, very good time for you, and we're all glad that you're down there doing what you do and practicing the CPR and passing that knowledge on to these guys. I was in the boat with Jason Jackson here, I don't know, it was a month ago, and we seen you out on the river, and you put a kid. Well, he wasn't a kid. He was, 20s probably, but on the greatest fish he'd ever seen, and it's got to be pretty rewarding to put those guys on them big fish and watch them turn them back loose and see the smiles and take all the pictures. It has to be as much a part as what you do as making money, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, those days are awesome. You make a lot of good friends. People you meet, the people I went turkey hunting with today, I met them on the boat, and they just said, come on down, go turkey hunting if you want to, and you meet a lot of really cool people, and to watch people catch their biggest fish, that's definitely one of the perks of the job. It's not all, great, but that's one of the greatest things about it. You get to watch, kids and families, have a good time, and people catch their biggest fish. It's definitely the best job I've ever had.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, thanks for everything that you do and being on the show tonight. I kind of got tied up today, and I'm a little late running in, but I know I'll be seeing you pretty soon down there in St. Louis. We're going to make some trips down there and keep these kids on the straight and narrow as you're putting them on them great fish.
Well, I appreciate it, Lyle, and I appreciate y'all having me on. Sorry, I probably sound like I'm half dead. I'm pretty tired, but I enjoy coming on and talking catfishing, and I just like to thank my sponsors, because they're the ones who help me do what I do, and they're just key in everything I do, and really good for the sport. Lowrance Fish Finders, Tangling with Catfish Rods, Team Catfish Terminal Tackle, K2 coolers. I know I'm gonna leave somebody out here. Monster rod holders, and I know I'm leaving somebody out. I got everybody, but if I left somebody out, I'm sorry.
Hey, Lyle.
Yes,
And just because you're late, it's not mine.
it's not yours.
It's not mine. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, Ryan. I've got quite a few questions for you here.
Oh, okay.
You good, buddy?
I got you were talking a little bit earlier with Chuck about the stress and everything. How much pressure is put on you to get clients on fish and things like that. My question would expand upon that a little bit. I would say that any good guide really, they probably really do stress and think about, even beforehand, where am I going to take these people? What am I going to do with them? And especially if you get them on fish, that really eats at you. Would you say that kind of stress and that kind of pressure that you're dealing with on such a regular basis really limits the amount of time you think you'll be able to do this job as guiding, or do you think just fishing in itself kind of no matter how much pressure, it still sort of is also a stress reliever as well?
No, and just real quick, I Whiskerware Apparel and Kevin Park and Diamond Boat Mafia. I forgot those guys. Knew I would. But as far as the pressure goes, I mean, you just got to take it. It's fishing, and as long as, like I said, you do your best and try your hardest and keep fresh bait, keep moving and teaching and just having fun and everything. You can get past a rough day. So as long as I know I'm prepared, I had fresh bait. Did everything in my power to try to catch the fish. I mean, it's fishing. That's what you got to tell yourself. And hopefully the good days outnumber the bad, and by a good margin, and and so far they have. So I don't see myself. I always tell people I don't think I'm smart enough to do anything else. So I think I'll just stick with this.
All right. Next question I have for you is, what equipment have you used that's failed you that you pretty much have decided that I'm no longer using this equipment, and what's proven itself to you?
There were some hooks that I wasn't real happy with, and I got rid of those, and then I was using some Abu 7,000 rockets, and they're good, smooth casts, and nice drag and everything, but I tore them up really fast. I used some line that I wasn't real happy with, just little stuff, but make a big difference when you fish, every day.
Well, name some names for us. We need to know.
Find out why you pay more for a lot of this stuff, because in the long run, it saves you money to pay a little more for quality than to keep spending money on junk, not junk, but stuff that's just going to tear up and cost you more. So just a few little things like that, but I'm real happy. I've kind of gotten a good groove with my equipment, and everything operates well, and I don't care what reel you have. You use them every day, and you get people that aren't used to using the equipment we use. It's going to get tore up. Everything is. I've used Rich's Reel Repair over there in Athens, and he does a good job. But I mean, I'm steady sending reels to him, and I don't, But the Dakotas have been, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they've been a great reel for me. I get a few months before I tear one up, out of them. So, and that's those and some pens. I use some pens, and those seem to be, pretty tough. But I didn't have much luck with the Abus, and I'm not saying I'm not an Abu person or they don't make good products or anything like that. I've just had bad luck with them. we've kind of tore up. Now I've never tried the the IC3s, but I've had the synchros and the rockets, and that just didn't have much luck with them.
On the pin that you used, did you use the Fathoms, or what pins did you like?
The 320.
320. And the Dakotas. You seem to like those. I mean, because really, I mean, whatever a guide is
They're a
using.
little bulky, but they're workhorses.
Yeah, a guide is going to be able to tell you what's going to last. I mean, they're going to most guides are going to figure that stuff out. You know, if they're going to save themselves a little bit of money, not replacing stuff all the time, they're going to be able to help a lot of people. You know what's built to last really, and as much as you fish, you know, even things that are built to last are going to need repaired, but.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, you're gonna tear stuff up. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, you know, when you're out there, you know, as much as I am, you know, crazy stuff happens and stuff's gonna fail on you and all that. And if you, you know, if you buy quality stuff, it's gonna happen less.
Yeah. Braid or mono was and a question we got on Catfish Weekly.
I use braid. I use the in Catfish Tug of War, and I also use Power Pro. I've been using Power Pro for years. You know, and like I said, Jeff's a sponsor, and his braid is great. I've been using Power Pro for years, and it's just tough for me to switch because it works, you know, great too.
I like it.
Had really good luck with both, and I think I've got Power Pro on from some of my first years. I just, you know, I'll take the old end and I'll tie it onto a new reel, and I'll, you know, so you got the new stuff on the bottom, on the top, and, you know, I'll rotate it out like that.
Yeah.
Another question I have for you is there any spots that you know that are just, they're what you'd almost consider a secret spot? You just won't take anybody, you know, any old client to, you know, they're for your family or friends or just for yourself or anything like that?
You know, I get that all the time, and I'll always, you know, anytime I have kids on the board, at the end of the day, I'll always, you know, joke with them, all right, it's time to go to the secret spot. And, but no, I mean, the fish move around so much. You know, all I'm out there doing is trying to establish a pattern and keeping people on fish. And, you know, if we're catching small fish and they're done doing that and they want to go after a big one, you know, we'll switch up tactics and go after a big one, you know. So it's, as far as spots go, I've got spots where I prefer other people not seeing me out there. But if somebody is taking time to, you know, to guide me out, I'm going to take them to where we're going to catch what they're after.
Yeah. Would you say on? I'm getting feedback from someone.
From Lyle.
Okay. Would you say that when you're out on the water with your fish finder, I think you said you use Lowrance. Can you tell the difference with your Lowrance between like a catfish and another fish on your fish finder?
I always tell people, I mean, that there's no definite. I call it an educated guess on how they're relating to structure or the bottom or, you know, the general shape and color. I think there's, you know, you can be fairly accurate on what you think is catfish, and on the side scan, you know, I usually look for how many there are and how they're relating into the current or, you know, the structure of the bottom or, you know, so on. But,
okay.
You know, it's all educated guess as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't, you know, unless I see him come up and bite my bait, watch my pole go down and reel him up and say that there he is. But most of the time, I think you can go, yeah, that's probably a catfish. You know.
Go ahead and throw your business name up and your phone number, and we can put that in the video later on. But
Ryan Casey with Show Me Catfishing Trophy Guide Service. www.showmecatfishing.com, and the number is 314-477-8355.
And they can call you 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's okay.
Nope. If they want to get a hold of me, best time to do it is probably around in between 6:30 and 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. Usually the best time to reach me. If I don't answer, leave me a message, and I'll get back to you between those hours usually.
Now I got more questions for you, but I'm going to take a second out here. And we have a few bottles of Dead Red left that people didn't get back with us, or we just didn't give out enough, or whatever. We had a couple extra ones left. I asked just a little bit ago, anybody who hasn't won yet in chat, and we had 2 people that hadn't won, Major Brown and Heath Malone. So congratulations to both of you guys. You're each going to get 2 bottles of Dead Red. Just Heath Malone, I'll see you probably at the next tournament, and I'll give them to you there. And then Major Brown, if you just send me a message with your address on it, I'll get it shipped out to you.
Say hi to Major Brown too. I believe I've had him in the boat with before.
Yeah, he said that he's fished with you before. Got a 47-pound blue, which he loved, and he's got it on the books for this year to go back out. So.
Yep, he's a good guy.
All right, so back to some more questions I had for you. I said, what do you think most tourney guys do wrong when they're out there?
Tournament guys?
Yep.
I mean, tournament fishing, so much of it is a mental aspect. You know, and I'd say, you know, that's where you either go right or you go wrong. You know, anybody can go out there and find a good school fish and you know, they'll bite and you win the tournament. But to be consistent, you know, you've got to have the right mental game. You know, you've got to, you know, be, you know, have some self-control pre-fishing, you know, and not hook every fish that you're fishing for and in the spots that you're wanting to fish during tournament day. You know, you need to clip baits on or, you know, just go through there and once and see what you got and that kind of thing, and then maybe have, you know, self-control to go back and just look at it the next few days before the tournament. And then the biggest thing is your game plan. You know, come up with a game plan and then, you know, stick to it. But if it's not working, change it up. I mean, treat it as a day of fishing. A lot of guys panic, you know, and they want to run here and there and everywhere they've caught fish before, instead of just doing what they do on a normal day, which is settle down and figure out what the pattern is. Why aren't those fish where they were the day before? Is the water coming up? Is the water, you know, is the water going down? If the water's going down, those fish might have moved out further into the channel. If it's coming up, they might have moved closer to the bank. You know, they're probably not far, but if you're marking them and they're not biting, you know, maybe it was a time of day thing. You know, maybe they didn't pay attention to, you know, I was catching these fish at 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock and not 6 o'clock when, you know, I'm out here fishing for them now. So, I mean, it's just a lot of variables. But most of the things I see people do wrong in a tournament is they panic. You know, you'll see them, and we all, you know, they're scrambling. You see them running up and down the river, you know, or the lake. You know, they're just jumping around and they're not fishing. And you got to have your lines in the water, baits in the water to catch them. So
I'm guilty of that.
You know, so much of it is just a mental game. I think that's where a lot of people fall short, and that's what, you know, is going to help you be consistent.
Yeah, I'd fully, like I said, I've done that. I'm guilty of it. I agree with that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who taught you how to catfish, and do you have any role models in the catfishing world?
Oh yeah, I got, you know, Bill Keane, you know, Coughlin, you know, Kearns. You know, I've got Patterson. You know, a ton of the guys who, you know, got everybody, you know, it got me interested in the sport. You know, those guys have been doing it for years, and you know, they're part of the reason why I'm doing it now. So I mean, yeah, I've got role models for sure. And what was the other part of that question?
Who taught you how to catfish?
You know, I just kind of got out there and did it, and I've had people I've went with, you know, so many people I went with, and I mean, anybody I go with, I usually will pick something up from them because I pay attention. You know, I've fished with a lot of good catfishermen, so I mean, I've learned things. I've learned things from Russ DeVore. I've had good fortune to fish with Russ quite a few times. I learned stuff from my clients. They'll pass me on tips that helps them out. I mean, I'm always learning, and I still got a long way to go. I've got a lot to learn. I got to fish with Chris Stout. I learned a good deal from him, and I've gotten to fish with quite a few people, and I think I've learned a lot from all of them, and I've picked up a few bad habits along the way on my own.
Yeah. Just recently here on Facebook, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I believe the Mason Gales shared the status of somebody, and I believe they were on Wheeler Lake, and I'm not sure who it was exactly, but a couple guys were in their boat traveling about 50 miles an hour and apparently hit a log that was hidden behind a wake. They pretty much had no control over avoiding it, and that motor came up into the boat when they hit that, and it ended up chopping the guy's leg up pretty good, and doing a good laceration on a head and whatnot. But the guys were lucky to be alive or whatever. What would be your what would have happened to you, the most dangerous thing that's happened to you out there, and what kind of lessons do you think people should take away from these things?
I'm overly cautious, and that's one thing I think a lot of people take me as being kind of a little hard on them in the boat, but it's safety is because my whole business can go away in a blink of an eye, because somebody makes a mistake or I make a mistake out there, and somebody can get hurt, and that's my worst fear. So the most dangerous thing out there that's happened to me is, the tug drivers. Some of them, feel like they own the river, and some of them are really nice. But I've had some run-ins with some guys who I was on their river and they didn't like it, and they charged the back of the boat, just full on, just came right at us, and threw a bunch of, like, a huge wake right over the back of the boat, and on purpose. And it's pretty scary.
Was that a tugboat driver, or what was that?
Know your rights, but also know the rules of the road. If you're within 100 foot of their tow, and if you're out there on the river, it's a good idea to have VHF and know the channels that they're all on.
Okay, so the boat that came up and did that to you, was it a regular boat, or was that a tugboat?
No, it was a tug.
Oh.
It was a tug with the Osage fleet, which is no longer around anymore.
Yeah.
Their boats are still out there, but the Osage.
Tell you what, them boats can throw up a hell of a wake too. I had my experience with that, and I don't think I want it again.
Yeah, I mean, they're bigger than you, and sometimes they feel like they're going to just push you around, and it's kind of nature of being out there, but just kind of give them a wide berth and avoid them, and know your, know what your rights are, and now I'll get on the radio and holler at them to back off, and there's forms you can file with the Coast Guard against them. Now, nothing's probably going to happen, but they don't like to have that,
paperwork.
At least they know, what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's that was a pretty scary thing that I seen, and earlier in one of our first episodes, we talked a little bit about the slipping off of the front, throwing, guy that fell in throwing a cast net early in the year and frigid water, and there's lots of lessons, and Ryan said he's pretty much a stickler on the rules of being safe out there on the water, which is a good thing, and that's gonna, as long as he continues that, I'd say that he's gonna have a long career at doing it and everything. And
the first thing you do when you go to get in my boat is you go over to safety meeting in the morning, and that's where everything's at: the fire extinguisher, the throwable, how to start the boat, run the boat, the first aid kit, and then my rules.
I think if anybody doesn't respect the water, they ought to stick to bank fishing, pretty much.
Yeah.
That stuff will come up and kill you real quick.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, wasn't it last year they had that guy, Dennis or something like that, fell out of his boat?
Dennis was killed out there, and I still don't know if they know exactly what happened, but I think there was an incident with a tug and a barge, and yeah, he was out there at night, and that was a really bad deal. We lost a really good, he was a good cat fisherman. He was out there quite a bit, and it's left behind a family, and it's a bad deal. You got to respect the water out there, and things can happen in a blink of an eye. So, he was a good fisherman. He knew what he was doing out there, and I'm curious to know what exactly happened when they finish up the investigation.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and give everybody a few minutes to close out, give a closing statement to close out the show. So I'm gonna start it off with Chuck. I think you're muted or something there, Chuck. We can't hear you.
All right.
There you go.
May 17th, Alabama Catfish Trail. We're going to be launching at the Scottsboro City Park, and we're going to be launching at 7 a.m. Scottsboro is going to be having a catfish festival that day. We're going to have weigh-in at their festival. It's going to be a fun time. We want everybody to come out and enjoy it. If you can't catfish, come enjoy the festivities, and they're going to have a kids rodeo that day, so everybody's welcome. That's all I got.
All right. Go ahead there, Lyle.
All right, I'm going to go through the same stuff we go through every week. Twisted Cat Outdoors is having Nauvoo, Illinois tournament the 24th of May. Like to see everybody show up that could possibly make it. Fishing will be above the Keokuk Dam. It'll be basically a channel cat tournament. We're looking to forward to having a good crowd up there, so I hope everybody can make it. May 31st, Calvin Myers Benefit Tournament at Burlington, Iowa. A lot of you guys know Calvin, and I'm hoping that we have a great crowd. We have just tons and tons of prizes and giveaways for this tournament, and I hope that everybody can show up for that. It'd be a really good time. The Jack and Jill tournament will be June 14th at LaGrange, Missouri, sponsored by Mark Twain Casino. This is a one-man, one-woman minimum in the boat. You can have as many as 3 people, but you have to have at least one man, one woman in the boat. We've got a lot of response and a lot of entries coming in for this tournament. We're guaranteeing $3,000 to win. Like to see everybody that can possibly make that make it. It's going to be a really good time. We've got lots of giveaways, and there's going to be booths set up and some other stuff. The other tournament that I wanted to talk to everybody about was Keokuk, Iowa. It's going to be, I believe it's July 12th, July 12th. We are accepting entries for that. $100 entry fee. There is also an added money tournament. This is going to be a great tournament. Last year, I think we had 45 or 48 boats in this tournament, and it should be bigger this year. The water looks pretty good, so I think it'll be really a good time. So please remember about the Calvin Meyer tournament. There's going to be meals and drawings and giveaways and auctions and raffles and all kinds of stuff, and this is for a really good cause. So anybody can make it to Burlington May 31st. We'd love to see you up there. That's all I got.
All right, go ahead there, Paul.
Well, I'd like to thank Ryan for answering our questions, being with us today, and one of these days I will get my fishing trip one way or the other. And it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But I do appreciate you being with us tonight, and I'll roll it back over to Chris for his closing.
We're gonna. I know that you already did a little bit there, Ryan, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and go again and let us know any of your sponsors or anything that you might have that you want to throw in here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chris. And I thought we were done earlier when I was doing this, but yeah, I mean, without the sponsors, they make everything happen and make my life and job a lot easier. And they're they're the ones that are pioneering and pushing the sport forward. So I'd like to thank Team Catfish Tackle, Tango and Catfish Rods, Monster Rod Holders, Whiskerware Apparel, Lowrance, K2 Coolers, Jumbo Mafia, Kevin Parks, and I think that's everybody. If I forgot somebody, I apologize. But that's everybody.
Yeah, if you could just shoot me a PM earlier with those so I can get them on the video.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Chris.
And I definitely appreciate y'all having me on here. It's a good thing you're doing to promote the sport and keep it going. So thanks for having me on.
No, we thank you for coming on, man. But for me closing out, I do want to say for the guys who were injured in that boat that I was talking about, we all at Catfish Weekly hope you guys have a speedy recovery. We hope everything turns out good and all that, and nothing like that happens to anybody else. So also we have want to mention that we do have some available spots as far as advertising on the website. You can see if you go to catfishweekly.com, you'll see some spots where we have places for ads. We're only asking, I believe it's $50 for 6 months and $30 for 3 months for those ads. And then also for like giveaways and things, we just had Team Catfish giving away this last month Dead Red. So if your company or business would like to give something away, even be it a discount or something like that for a future month or whatever, you can get a hold of us at one of the at catfishweekly.com email addresses, be it Fudd or Paul, and we can get you set up there. I do want to also thank my individual sponsors, since I don't think I've done that yet on this show. Minn Kota, Humminbird, Lyle there with Black Horse Custom Rods. Let's see, Driftmaster, Bottom Dwellers, Delaware Propeller, Midwest Trophy Mounts.
He started.
I gotta look down.
just to put this in perspective, Ryan, he had to look at his shirt to get them all.
Hey, I don't know why I'm tired, but I'm having a tough time thinking on my feet here.
Yeah, I think I got most of them, but if I forgot one, I do apologize. But yeah, I want to thank, like Ryan said, we can't do this without our sponsors. Sponsors are going to help us push the sport forward, so I do want to thank all of them, and any future sponsors that we'll have for Catfish Weekly, as well as the past ones that have helped us already get going. We really do appreciate it. I believe that's all I have. So again, I want to say thanks to Ryan Casey for coming on tonight. Thanks for Lyle for blessing us with his presence.
Let's go ahead and let Ryan go, and then there's a couple of other things we needed to do, but we don't need to get him tied up any longer while we're on the air. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
All right. Bye.
We needed to, and I just had it on the tip of my tongue. It's one of the announcements that you make at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
About,
you want to do that?
We're not biased.
Yeah, you want me to do that one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then are we done after that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. The last thing, I guess I forgot to do it. I didn't mention it, but even though each of us individually have our own sponsors, the show itself isn't biased or sponsored by any specific product or company or anything. We're pretty much just here to pass along our enjoyment of the sport of catfishing and spread knowledge and information and just have a good time. And so, it doesn't matter what product you use or what company or whatever. There's no politics here. So
we're in it together.
Yeah, we're all in it together. We're just we're just here to have a good time.
And you know, Chris, there, the project that you and Lyle and a bunch are working on.
Yeah, the Kickstarter project that came to a close. We were completely funded and overfunded actually. So right now the current progress of that is that I bought the software. The forum is actually up and running right now. It's not quite ready for everybody to jump in and start using yet. I'm looking for a designer to help get some add-ons and some things that I feel like it needs before it's completely ready. But as soon as it's all ready, we'll be blasting it out on Catfish Weekly here and out on Facebook. All the guys like Aaron Wheatley and Lyle and everybody will be pushing that out and letting everybody know to go sign up and start sharing that information that we can get the catfish regulations and things for all the states. So keep an eye out for it or an ear out for it, and it will definitely be ready hopefully within the next 30 days. So I mean I'm working on it quite a bit. So I believe that's all. So until we see you next time, stay out of my spot.